All right, welcome back to the channel. My name is AD Robles. Thank you for bearing with me this week. I've been sick. That's why there hasn't been a lot of videos. It started off kind of up in my head, and I couldn't taste anything. I couldn't even really talk. It was hard to work. And then it went down to my throat and my lungs, and that was a disaster. But now I feel pretty much better. Excuse me. Not 100%, as you can see, but we're going to try to get a quick video in today. You know, there is a parable in the Bible called the parable of the talents, and it describes a master who gives his servants responsibility over some of his money, and then depending on how well they did, you know, he puts them in charge of, responsible for a lot more. And so at the end of the parable, Jesus says, to the one who has, more will be given, and he'll have an abundance, but to the one who doesn't have, even what he has will be taken away. Now that doesn't really jive with the whole socialist version of Christianity, but hey, that's okay. It's about the kingdom of God, but there's a principle here, right? There's a principle, and Jesus actually calls this out in the parable itself, and also elsewhere he teaches this. He says, if you're faithful with a little bit, you'll be faithful with a lot. And I think the most dangerous part about Christian nationalism, is it takes that lesson, that principle, it takes it very seriously and seeks to apply it today. Yeah, there's a cottage industry right now. Well, let me say this. You know, a lot of money and time and energy has been spent amongst the regime Christians. And what I mean by that is, you know, the David Frenches of the world, Russell Moore, Gospel Coalition, all those losers. You know, they want you to do one of two things. Either they want you to vote Democrat, and that's kind of where David French is sort of landing at this point. You know, he's very happy when the party of Baal worship and Asherah worship is elected into office. That's where he gets his little jollies from. They'll either want you to do that, or they want you to be comfortable losing. You know what I mean? They want you to be used to losing, and maybe it's not even good for Christians to be overtly Christian in their politics. Like, maybe that's bad. And like, so they either want you in one of two camps, either totally neutered or full on voting for the pagans. That's what they want. And so a lot of money has been spent doing that. And we're at the point now that, you know, we don't really expect much from our politicians. You know, we expect to lose, essentially, is what it is. And we vote, you know, we dutifully vote. We go to the polls and we vote our principles. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that at all. But we kind of understand, and, you know, I mean, probably especially in this audience, we kind of go to those polls and we're not really expecting much to come of it. I mean, I even saw Dr. James White after he voted for, I guess, Kerry Lake in Arizona, that he didn't really even know if that would count in any way. Like, he had no idea if it would even be valuable to do it, but he did it. And it's kind of like we're going through the motions at this point. But you see, I think that what happens when we're in that position where we don't expect much, you know, we're in like sort of the just the traditional way to engage in politics, you know. And, you know, you kind of win some, you kind of lose some, but you're always trending towards losses. It's, you know, nothing goes up and down in a straight line. So, yeah, you win one here, you win one there, you lose one there, but you're consistently getting less and less Christian over time, at least in the politics. You get used to that, and you get to the point where it's like it's not even really, you don't even really take credit for the loss anymore, because it's like, look, I vote for these guys, and, you know, yeah, we had the House, we had the Senate, we had the presidency, and somehow we're still, sacrificing children to Moloch. It's like, how does this happen, right? How does it work that way? And you just kind of get used to this loser mentality where, hey, it's not your fault. You know what I mean? By the way, I'm not in the Senate, right? But Christian nationalism, the most dangerous part of it, and quite frankly, the part that is the best part, in my opinion, is the fact that it's offering things that you have control over, things that you have responsibility over. And it might only seem like a few talents, right? You know, your master only gave you a few talents, and so you can play with those few talents, but you're not going to like win the whole, you know, thing with those few talents. But, you know, you show yourself faithful there, and the expectation is you'll be given more. And see, that's what Christian nationalism is tapping into. I think that this, like, the fact that you actually can lose and it will be your fault if you lose is a dangerous part of Christian nationalism, but it's also the best part about Christian nationalism. Let me explain what I mean. One of the memes right now going around about this whole debate is the whole idea about the dad bod, right? Like a lot of Christian nationalists are talking about getting in shape, getting fit, stop being so fat, losing the dad bod, and how that part, your health, is part of Christian nationalism. Now, part of that is a joke and part of that is funny and just humorous. But part of it is serious because I think that losing the dad bod, mission, that goal, that's a placeholder. We should really do that, by the way. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that. But that's a placeholder for the things in your control, the things that are within your power, you need to be faithful in. And what is more in your control than what you consume and what you eat and how you exercise? That is completely within your control. And so what we're saying, I think, when we're talking about losing the dad bod is we are talking about losing the dad bod. So you should do that. But also what we're talking about is setting up your family and how you interact with your wife and your children, how you're discipling your children. Are you being faithful with evangelizing and teaching and discipling and training your children? Because if you're not doing that, and this is a biblical principle. If you can't even, it talks about pastors, right? If you can't even control your family, how are you going to, rule the church of God? You can't even rule properly with your wife and your children. How are you going to be a pastor in the church of God, right? This is a biblical principle. So we're saying, look, if you're going to do something beyond LARPing, because that's the thing. The critics of Christian nationalism say, oh, you're just LARPing. You're just navel-gazing. You're like, yeah, what if we had a Christian emperor? How should he judge? How should he rule? You're never going to have a Christian emperor. Grow up. That's what people say to us, right? And here's the thing. We do need to talk about that, what a Christian civil governing authority would do, what should do, according to the Bible, because you have to have something to aim for, right? You have to know what to be shooting for, what to teach, right? You hit what you aim for. So those discussions are necessary. But if that's where it ends, and you don't do the things in your own body, in your own family, in your own community, then it's just a LARPing. They're right, you are LARPing. But see, Christian nationalism is dangerous, and Christian nationalism is awesome because you can fail at it right now, and it actually is your fault. It's not like voting for Mitt Romney or Ted Cruz, and then they don't do the right thing, because then you have an excuse. Well, it's not my fault. I mean, I'm not Ted Cruz. This is something that's completely within your control. So if you set out to get fit, and a year later you're just as fat as you've ever been, in fact, maybe you're more fat, that's your fault. You look in the mirror. That's my fault if I look in the mirror in a year from now and I'm not as fit as I wanted to be. And so we need to take, and Christian nationalists are doing this. If you notice, a lot of the focus of Christian nationalism is things that you can control, things that are in your own house, your own family, your own church, your own community, things that you have a lot of influence over. Localism. And it's not localism for localism's sake. It's localism so that we can command the future, so that we can have a Christian nation. We need to have a Christian home so we can have a Christian community. We need to have a Christian community so we can have a Christian state. We need to have a Christian state so we can have a Christian nation. That's how we're going to win this thing. That's how it's going to happen. But the good news, and that's the thing, you can fail at this because this is within your control. This is what people are talking about. This is why you see guys like Andrew Torba talking about a parallel economy, building our own internet, building our own, banking systems, institutions, payment processors, things like that. Doing that for ourselves because we recognize that the system that we've inherited is thoroughly antichrist, is thoroughly pagan. They worship Moloch, they worship Asherah, they worship Baal. They're Satanists. We get that. The system is not for Christ. And so if we're going to be for Christ, we need to understand that system, Christ isn't going to sit back and just let that continue. He's going to tear it down. And when he tears it down, we want to be left standing. Maybe our payment processors aren't as good as PayPal yet, but it's going to be standing. Maybe our local communities aren't as powerful as the federal government is right now, but it's going to be there when that one is toppled. You see, many Christian nationalists operate under the assumption that basically the United States has been judged and found wanting. has been judged and found wanting. And we're in the process of God revealing his wrath against the United States right now. We see it in our military. We see it in our economy. We see it with the kind of leaders he's given us. He's judging the United States right now. And even though we still exist on paper, we have already been judged. The sentence has already been established, and it's currently being carried out. And so we are going to remain standing when all the other institutions have been destroyed. See, Christian nationalism is focused on things you have control over. Let me just read you 2 Gab posts that I found from Nick Storm. Now, Nick, I don't know if you're a Christian nationalist, but I don't even really care if you call yourself one or not, because to me, we're allies. We see the world very similarly. Here's what Nick says, and this is so good because this puts the onus on you, which is exactly where it should be. With God's help, of course. With God's help, the onus is on you. You can fail at this or you can succeed at this, and it's within your power, and you don't have to worry about all the pagans around you. They do whatever they have to do. You do what you have to do. This is the most dangerous part about Christian nationalism, but it's also the best part. Here's what Nick says. Is the mainstream media controlled? Don't watch it. There are alternatives. Is the stock market rigged? Invest in land, tangible assets, businesses, things like that. Is the food in your stores filled with toxins? Okay, grow your own food. Buy from local people, people you know, people you trust. Is the education system stealing your kids? Okay, homeschool. Invest in Christian private schools. I mean, do stuff like that. Do you think that usury is creating a new slave culture in our time? A lot of people believe this. I believe this. Okay, so then get rid of your debt. Don't go into debt. Avoid it, debt like the plague. If that's what's going on, if people are falling into usury, they're slaves now, then don't do it. He says, look, if the current system is largely controlled by Antichrist, that's no reason to despair or give up. The future is bright. Christ is king, and we are his people. That's exactly correct. There are alternatives to all of this stuff. There are alternatives, and we need to avail ourselves of those alternatives. But the problem is, and this is the dangerous part, you can fail at that. You can fail at all those things. If you don't want to eat the poison food they give you at the stores, and you want to set up your own local situations and local networks, you buy food from farmers, like that stuff you can go and do right now. You could also fail at it, but you could also succeed at it. So let's not get into this mindset of just like complaining all the time. Look, we have to identify the problems, and that's not complaining. But if you only identify the problems, like there are some great accounts that I follow on Twitter and Facebook, or not Facebook, I'm not on Facebook, Twitter and Gab, that they do an awful lot of complaining, and they never offer any solutions. They know the score, they get what's going on, that's why I follow them, but there's really no solutions. And if there are solutions, it's like kind of vague stuff, like wake up, like stuff like that. It's not really that helpful, you know what I mean? But if you're only doing that and not actually doing the things necessary to plan, then, I mean, that's your problem. That's not everybody else's problem. The pagans are going to do what they have to do. You do what you have to do. Here's Jared Sparks. Pastor Jared is a Baptist pastor, and, he posts some great stuff. I highly recommend him. Every now and then he posts some Baptist propaganda, but that's okay. I love Baptists. Here's what he says. He says, don't let nationalism distract you from localism, meaning many Christians evangelize until they are blue in the face, but they never do family worship. They have a passion for a Great Commission in the world, but they are passive about the Great Commission in the home. Great Commission by way of households. Nationalism by way of localism. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. For most people, the lion's share of their time, energy, money, emotions should be spent at home and with those closest to you, your own family, your own community. And then for most people, some people, of course, they're in world missions. That's their whole thing. They don't have a family. That's one thing. But for most people, 99% of the time, your money, time, energy, emotions, prayers should be at home, directed for the people in your charge, your wife, your children, your local community. Those are the people you have the most influence on. That is how we win this. But the dangerous part of that is that you could fail at that. See, if you don't evangelize, Ethiopia, and maybe you gave some money to an Ethiopian mission, but Ethiopia never changes to, let's not say Ethiopia because there's a lot of Christians in Ethiopia. Let's just say Saudi Arabia, right? You send money to Saudi Arabia for missionaries, and they never turn Christian, right? Well, that's kind of like national politics, right? Because you have the excuse. It's like, well, I voted for Ted Cruz. I mean, he didn't hold up his end of the bargain, But there's like a built-in excuse there. But with this stuff, there's no excuse. If your children turn pagan, Jesus is going to look at you and be like, who's responsible for this? And the answer is you. You're responsible for this. You were supposed to be discipling them. That's on you. And so here's the thing. Christian nationalism, of course, we're not disengaging from national politics. Of course, we're not disengaging from voting. But if you notice the rhetoric, if you notice what we actually do, the things we're doing, starting businesses, building our own networks, Gab is doing some great stuff in this regard. The things we're actually doing, it's more about things that are within your control. Don't be an alcoholic, don't look at porn, don't be a pothead, things like that, like things that, basic stuff we're talking about, basic stuff. It's just amazing to think, like, we've gotten so used to this built-in excuse, like, well, I did my part. I mean, I campaigned for Mitt Romney, you know what I mean? Or I campaigned for Ted Cruz. I campaigned for even someone good, even someone like Ron Paul. Yeah, I supported Ron Paul. I mean, what else do you want me to do? It's like he didn't hold up his end of the bargain. Well, the thing is, like our energy has been focused on an area where it's just really out of our control. Like, no matter what you think is going on at the World Economic Forum, really, you don't really have control over what Klaus Schwab does. So if you want to think about that, you want to talk about that, that's totally fine. But the lion's share of your energy has to be with things that you do have control of. Your family, your local community, your church, yourself. That's where the focus has to be right now. And the thing is, God will bless that. God will bless that. That's where this principle comes into play. You're faithful with your own body, God will give you a family. You're faithful with your family, God will give you a community. You're faithful with a community, God will give you the state and the nation and then the world and then the entire everything. That's the plan, guys. That's the plan. Let's focus on faithfulness in the little things. That's where our focus has to be. That's the dangerous part about Christian nationalism. You can fail at it. So next year, when I look myself in the mirror, do I still have the dad bod? Because if I do, I can't blame, the globalists for that. Oh, they gave me the poison food. The food got me. And, well, if I know that, then I need to mitigate for that, right? I need to mitigate for that. In any case, I hope this video comes across the right way. I'm still kind of a little under the weather, so hopefully it's not a complete jumbled mess. I hope it's encouraging to you, too, because the future is there. Christ will help you. Ask for the help of the Holy Spirit. Christ will help you. He is guaranteed our future, vouchsafed our journey. He's going to be with us to the end of the age. All we need to do are be faithful with the little things, man. The Great Commission, teaching them to observe everything Christ commands. You can't teach Klaus Schwab to observe everything Christ commands because you have no access to Klaus Schwab. Who can you teach to obey everything Christ commands? Yourself, your wife, your children, your local community, your church body, things like that. And if we're faithful in those areas, man, it's not going to be long. I think some people get this impression that, Christian nationalists are so small, there's no way this is ever going to affect any change. It's going to take 1,000 generations. And maybe it does take 1,000 generations. And the thing is, we can't be scared of that because I think we have 1,000 generations to get this done. But I don't think so. I don't think it's going to take 1,000 generations. I think we could do this puppy in a couple generations, even just one. Imagine that. I mean, think about like Jared here. Jared, he gets it. This guy gets it. This guy's got a big family. Nick Storm here. This guy gets it. This guy, I don't want to put his family on blast here, but he's got a beautiful family. I think I get it. I got 3 kids going on a 4th coming. We get it, man. We're having children, and if we raise these children in the fear and admonition of the Lord, and God holds up his end of the bargain, which he always, 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 always does, and he blesses that generation, man, think about that compared to our enemies who are offing their children or neutering their children. Think about that. In one generation, we got numbers, man. We got numbers. In any case, the future is bright, and I don't think it's going to take that long. I hope you found this video helpful. God bless you. See you next time on the AD Robles YouTube channel. See, I'm so jumbled up. I messed up my outro, my tagline at the end. Oh, well, I'll see you in the next one. God bless.